Lex Linwood has successfully transformed Lithia Bay from a protected nature reserve into a growing economic engine. But despite all the growth, there's nowhere to actually govern from. That's because city officials have been operating out of a rented backroom with a folding table. Or at least, that's what it feels like. For a man like Lex, that simply isn't going to cut it. He wants a real center for the city. He envisions a single district that unites every scattered department, creating a hub where the government can stop improvising and start leading. Unfortunately, the county is broke. There isn't enough cash to build a city hall, let alone a regional hospital that the county desperately needs. Thankfully, Lex is a businessman, and he knows how to leverage debt. He authorizes a $3.5 million loan to fund construction, and that's just for the hospital. To fund everything else, he signs off on a tax hike for the office and industrial sectors. So today, we're going to construct the city's first government district, build a massive regional hospital, overhaul the rail corridor, and start work on phase 2 of the new downtown. Let's jump in. Alright, so the first thing that I want to focus on is a city hall. And that's because we don't have a single city hall or administrative building in Lithia Bay whatsoever. In fact, I don't even think we have a single one of these unlocked. So we might as well quickly spend some of our development points. So we're going to unlock the welfare office, the city hall, and we do have 47 development points, so I think we might as well go through and unlock some more stuff as well. Trams, subways. We're also going to need a hospital very soon. And I think that's pretty much everything we're going to need. I guess we could probably unlock the police headquarters along with the prison. Now there's 2 important considerations for placement, or I guess technically 3. First, we're broke, and I don't even think we can afford the building. So not yet, but we will be able to afford some of them very soon. But aside from that, this area is actually very hilly, and then we have this highway up here. And I could easily see this functioning as some type of arterial all the way through this area. But that also means that this highway right here that connects into our interstate is going to need some type of upgrade in the future. We're not going to do it today, but I think it's going to be very important once this area is more dense and once we have our port. Now, the only reason any of that matters is just due to the way that I want to lay out our city hall building and our road in this area. So first, before we continue any further, let's buy these 2 tiles right here. The tile upkeep and the cost is pretty much negligible, so we're not going to worry about it whatsoever. Quick side note, if everything looks a little bit more clear, it's because I just disabled DLSS. It was driving me crazy, it just looks too blurry. Anyways, I'm going to try not to get too off track. I need a guideline of sorts to make sure that I'm respecting this road. So we're going to snap directly in the middle, and we're just going to use a 4-lane divided road for now. We're going to pull this all the way down. And now this will give me a clean snapping point to make sure that we're orientating our road towards this area. Next up, I want to get our road layout in for our city hall. And this is where things are going to get tricky. I'm going to start by running a straight segment right around here. And then I want to check the curve into this road. And it looks like we're off just by a tiny bit, so we're going to move this road over. There we go. Now we'll be able to get a nice clean connection into these roads. And I think we're going to start that right now, and we're just going to bridge over our tracks. And because I want to keep things moving, we're going to clean this up afterwards. Probably this train track as well, because it's looking a bit silly. And it seems like most of the city halls are about 10-ish to 20-ish units. So we're going to take a normal 2-lane road. We're going to break the node right here. And then we're also going to break that node up here. Let's delete everything in the middle. And now we can also delete these extra pieces. Now I want to be very careful with how I do this. So we're going to need a 2-lane one-way road. We're going to snap onto the right side. The length between this road and this road is roughly 42 meters. So my quick math tells me that I need to get roughly to 14. And then we're going to go over 10. And then we'll go up 14. Now let's do the exact same thing on this side. Now we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time on this side. Okay, now that we have this done, I feel like I need to take a few liberties here. Ones that I'm really not excited to do, but that I also really want to do because I know it's going to end up looking so much nicer. And there we go. Just filling that in a bit really helps. That way it's not so crazy and chaotic. But now we have a new issue. We need to connect into this bridge. And at this point in time, our road network just isn't high enough. So I'm going to use Move It, grab everything here, and set it all to be the same height as this node. Okay, I take that back. We're going to set it all to be the same height as this node. And we're definitely going to have to delete this bridge because nothing is going according to plan. But as the saying goes, there are only 4 rules that you need to remember. Make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan. So let's try something like that right there. And I'm wondering if this is enough room. And is that enough height? No, just barely. So the height from this side of the track is 553 meters, and the height from right here is 551. So we're gonna sink the track into the ground just a bit further. Alright, so like I promised, I did sink the rail, but I also added a secondary track, and then I extended it all the way down to this little bridge right here. And that's because someone pointed out that I should probably have double tracks running through this area. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized it would look much more natural with the double tracks and be much easier to expand in the future as long as we have them. Now with that said, I still had to do a bunch of crazy things to make this happen, and you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm definitely okay with it. Now I still want to get this road connected in, so let's just delete this, and we'll delete this as well, because I want to make sure that it's a straight segment heading across. Okay, now that right there should be straight enough, and it's definitely way more straight than it was before. So now we're just going to do a complex curve into this road. Now before I forget, let's reverse the direction of this one-way road. And I also do want grass and trees. That's because it'll stop anyone from parking on this road. And we should probably provide the same thing for these 4-lane roads as well. There should be no reason to park on this road unless you personally want to drive me crazy. Additionally, we're going to get rid of the lights here because we do not need them. And we're going to pull out some of these nodes a bit just to clean it up a tiny bit. And there we go. That is much better. Now we have 2 main arterials in Walnut Town, and I want to make sure we're connecting them into our new grid. As we move into our denser areas, we will establish more of a formal grid rather than what we did over here, where I really just kind of went loosey-goosey. And even though I really do enjoy how this turned out, this was a big pain to zone in. I had to manually plot pretty much everything. So that's just something we'll want to keep in mind moving forward. Now let's snap directly to this road, and we're going to pull it straight across. And now let's connect directly into this 4-lane right here. And now for Mistwood Street, I'm really not excited about the idea of connecting it directly into this one-way. Although I do believe that I want to add in a direct road in the middle of this, I don't want it to be a 4-lane. So what we're going to do with Mistwood Street is have it terminate somewhere right here for now. And once we build our grid, that's when we can get a bit more specific about where this will go. So we'll continue to send this straight for a bit. We'll curve around. And now all we need is a nice gentle curve into this road. Now I want to start planning for our city hall. We still don't have enough money, but we're almost there. And we have a lot of great options to choose from. And what I really like about this one is that we could place it directly in the middle. We could run the road across. And then we could split all of this into 3 sections. So we could have a nice little park over here, another park here, and then directly in the middle we'd have our city hall. We also have some other options like our modern city hall, but to me this one feels just a bit too much for what I want this area to be. If we wanted to go a bit crazier, we could just place in the United States Capitol. I think this is a really cool asset, but probably not the greatest decision in terms of having this feel integrated. It's just too recognizable. And yeah, after mulling it over, this is the asset we're going to go with. I want to measure to roughly understand where the middle is. So my quick math tells me that the middle is roughly 23. Now initially I really didn't want to connect this 4-lane into here, but I don't think we have another option. I was considering pulling some of these 2 lanes all the way down and having them snake through and connect in, but honestly, I think I'm just making this too complex. Let's delete some of this and we're going to curve directly into this road. And you know what? I actually will upgrade this into a 4-lane road, but let's make sure that this extra capacity is for transit, so either our bus network or our tram network. Now we're going to continue this 4-lane down this hill, then we're going to pull a straight segment from this highway. And now we're just going to connect both of these in. And now we're going to connect this 4-lane into right about here. I want to make sure there's at least 1 circle of space though, and you gotta love my units of measurement. What even is 1 circle? It's roughly 9 units. And we finally have enough money. Let's go. We're gonna grab our city hall building and we're gonna place this directly in the center. And does this building have any upgrades? It doesn't seem like it does. It is gonna give us a boost of -1% loan interest, -2% import costs, -5% building leveling, and +2 attractiveness. I think the only one that's really going to have an impact right away is the loan interest. And essentially it's the difference between 2.7 and 2.8, really not all that much. Now the one thing that worries me is we have parking over here, but we have no way to access it. I kind of envision the city hall having little to no parking, although what I would like to imagine is that this parking is exclusively for people with disabilities. And we don't really have a way to enforce this in the game, but what we can do is just place a few of these decals down. And now we'll stretch out this surface and then connect it directly into our road. Now I'd like to adjust the colors of this building just to make it feel a bit more integrated. So right now we have this green roof and we have this browny reddish orange type color right here. Let's make the roof just a bit darker and then we'll make the building slightly more red, as I believe that's Lithia Bay's colors. Now because this is a really important building, I want to make sure that we're giving it the right love and care, and I don't want to hold it off until detailing. So we're going to pull this path alongside the building and let's get that connected into the sidewalk. Now I want to make sure this is functional, so let's grab our invisible pedestrian path and we're just going to pull this all the way around. We're also going to make sure that we connect all of this in as well. And now let's get a nice grass surface all alongside this. We need some type of park back here because this building should feel grand. So we're going to open up Find It. Under the props menu, we're going to search up fountain. And really all I'm looking for is the biggest fountain. I think this one right here will work really nicely. We're going to center it directly in the middle of the building. And now to make the surface work easier, we're going to run a path around it. So we'll make a perfect circle. Then in Move It, we'll select Marquee. We'll disable everything except for nodes. We'll drag to select it all. And then we're just going to bump this over a tiny bit. And there we go. That's pretty much perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Now we're going to have some winding paths pretty much connect all around here. There's two big things that I'd really love to do. First, I'd love to replace this surface with something a little bit fancier. The only reason I'm not going to is because all of these surfaces right here, they all overlap with the roads, the buildings, and everything else, and that just creates too much work. The second thing I would have loved to do is to grab this surface and apply it onto this path, and this is where the double-edged sword comes in. Because it doesn't overlap with anything, it doesn't overlap with the path either. So I think for the path, we actually will use a different surface for this, and I'm leaning towards this British-inspired surface by G87. Now there's really only one more big thing that I want to do before I place down some trees and move on, and that's add in some type of transition like we did here for our parking. I really like having this curb here because it feels like there's some depth rather than just a surface and another surface. So I was looking through some of our net lanes, and I think what we're going to do is place down one of these granite or marble edges. And so they look a little bit like this, and I think this is going to help with that depth. Let's finish this off. Again, we're going to use this absolutely beautiful, amazing leafy tree, and we're just going to place a few of them throughout the area, and then we're going to add one green grass surface. And here's one big tip. If you think trees sway way too much in general, if you have the tree controller mod, you can select the wind tab, change your setting to override, and then I like to reduce my strength to somewhere around 4 or 5. And to me, what that gives you is just something that feels a lot more calm, and it doesn't look so crazy. Now we're burning money, and I've spent an hour making a city hall look very pretty. So I'm gonna stop now, and what we're gonna do is add in a grass surface to this area, and then we'll come back later to finish this off. What we need is some development here. And there's going to be really one big important consideration that I want to keep in mind. I don't want any zoning fronting these one-ways. I don't mind if a building is nice and snug with the back of it, but we need a secondary road to run across and carry all of our zoning and our traffic. And because I really don't want to get trapped replicating this style, what we're going to do is we're going to go directly in the middle of this road. We'll measure roughly in the halfway point. Let's call that 8 units. We'll connect into both of these roads, and then we're going to pull 8 units to the right with both roads. And unfortunately, this one's going to require a bit of terraforming. Now we'll delete all these center roads. We don't need them anymore. Now we're going to connect these roads into our 4-lane. And we're also going to pull them all the way down. And now we need to do quite a bit of grading to make sure that this will be easy to develop. So we'll level out to this top height, and then we're going to use our slope terrain tool to slope all the way up. We'll also do the exact same thing on this side, except for it seems like this area is going to have more leveling if anything else. And then for this top section, we're actually just going to replicate what we already have. And if my memory is correct, we went up 14 units. And that looks pretty good to me. Alright, now what that gives us is this sort of alien looking grid. I really do like it though. So I imagine this district either having 2 focuses. One would be very heavy on city services, but ideally it's more of a government district, and I believe the style is called neoclassicism or neoclassical. And the interesting thing is that this building is actually tagged as neoclassicism style. Now, we don't really have the best assets for this neoclassical style within City Skylines, at least from what I've seen. but I do know there is one thing that Lithia Bay needs as a whole, and that is a hospital. Right now, we don't have a single hospital, we only have smaller medical clinics. And to me, what better place to add it than right here? Now we've got lots of choices, but I already know which one I want. That's this Eastern European hospital. Because to me, it just really feels like it fits, it's big, it's grand, and it has the exact style that I'm going for. The only issue is that this is $2 million. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to raise our taxation, and I can already see the riots and the protests happening. So let's increase our office to 7%, our industrial to 8%, and that right there gives us $42,000 an hour, and that should be enough to put us in a really good spot. So while we wait for the money to increase, let's get the continent 1 and 2 in. They're more of a minimalist style, but I feel like they're gonna work really well. And then to fill in the gaps here, let's use the Cedar Residence building. And I'm not a big fan of how high this building is, so let's just replace it with the Continent 1. I really think this area wouldn't be too colorful, but I'm gonna roll with it so it doesn't feel like I'm repeating the same assets. Right on this corner, I'd love to get some urban promenades in. The only problem that I have with these is the grass on top. I love these assets, I just don't like the grass. And I know that probably doesn't make sense given that that's the entire purpose of these. Okay, I take that back. This isn't the most elegant solution in my opinion, but it is a solution, one that I will happily apply. And now when you zoom out, that looks perfect. I mean, it looks a bit run down, but it still looks really good. Now we're gonna grab the Kinsman Plaza. We'll snap it to this road, then we're gonna use Move It to pull it all the way back. And now we're gonna replicate the same road network that we had in this plot. And I think there's going to be one really good building to fit into this little district, and that's the Netherlands High School. So we're going to get that placed in, spend pretty much all of our money, then we're going to bring this closer towards the road. Actually, that placement right there is pretty much perfect. In our office zoning, we have this brutalist office building, and we're going to have it front Magnolia Street. Now, whatever you do not look at the back of this building, please. I think we're definitely going to have to do some work and detailing to hide that up though. I really wanted these buildings to fit in, but they just don't. And if I don't fix it, it's just not going to feel right. I remembered that we have the Northeast pack, and this pack has a lot of the exact buildings that I'm looking for. Okay, I'm sorry for going back and forth. I've been really struggling to find the buildings that I want, but now I have a really good idea of what I want to do. So first, let's grab the Modern Technical University Extension Wing, and we're going to place that right there, right on the corner. And now let's grab the Secondary Extension Wing, and we're going to place that aligned with this road. And then using Move It, we're going to set them both to be the same height. Now we'll pull these nice and close together, and there we go. Now we have something that kind of feels like it could be a government area. It doesn't feel too northeastern, it doesn't feel like the wrong mix of assets, and that was the biggest struggle. The only issue is that none of these buildings actually function. So we're going to use the modular zoning blocks to achieve this. And let's start with office. So we're going to have a few office buildings in here, and this one is 2 depth. And now we're just going to increase the height of this building, that way I can actually grab the blocks and upgrade them. And we'll have a pedestrian gate right here. Then for this one, we're also going to have a pedestrian gate right here. And now we'll just set the building to be the same height as this node. I'm going to go through and do that with all of these. They're mostly just going to be office because I imagine this to primarily be a government services district. I'll come back and do all the surface work later. We're starting to have a death care and a healthcare problem, so let's start by assigning this a district. And currently there is 648 residents with 675 active employees and 740 total. For death care, we are just going to borrow the service that we have over here. And we're going to do the exact same thing with healthcare as well. And there shouldn't really be any concerns other than travel time, because there's only 1 out of 6 vehicles in use, and we still have a capacity for 200 more patients. I'm really holding off for that hospital. Now last up, let's just get one more asset within this little spot here. Now I'm tired of waiting for this hospital, so let's just take out a loan. We're going to need about 2 million, maybe even a bit more. I think about 2.5 should be good, and I would think wrong. Okay, in total 3.5 million. That should be perfect. And yes, it was. Now we're going to flatten this area out, and that's because this is a really big building, and it's going to flatten everything anyways, so we might as well do it ahead of time. And now I want to align this closer to this side of the road, and we're going to leave just a little bit of setback. All right, there goes most of our loan. But now we have this amazing big giant hospital. Next up, we're going to need parking, and a whole bunch of parking. And that's because this has a capacity for 700 patients. This is going to be a regional center, and we need to make sure that we're treating it like that. Before we get any parking in though, let's just grab a normal 2-lane road, and we're going to snap this directly to the front. And I want to connect this into this road, just to try and minimize our junctions. And I also want one more exit and entrance, just to make sure that our ambulances have the absolute best opportunity to provide the best service. Now I'm going to quickly build out all of our parking. Okay, finally done. That took way too long. I don't ever want to talk about parking ever again. Parking is banned. I'm not even going to touch this area until detailing. So for now, I'm just going to move on. But I guess before I forget, I should probably set this to have an operating district. So we're going to keep it fairly local. And that's only because it doesn't actually have any helicopters. It only has ambulances. So we want to make sure that all of these ambulances are dispatching to areas near us. I guess we could include the farms as well, and the forestry industry. This right here is pretty much where I'm going to leave off our government district. I want to move a bit quicker now and build out this area right here. And unfortunately, we don't have any buses. Okay, not a big deal. Let's quickly add another bus depot. And since we already have a city services district over here, we might as well place it in. It is a bit far of a trip though. That's the only thing that concerns me. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. With that done, hopefully I remember to come back and detail this area. Now I want to build out the grid in this area, and we're going to use a few connections that we already have. But aside from that, I really just want this to be one big grid. Okay, and this is our grid for now. I was just going to go full-on grid, straight lines all the way through, and that would have made it a million times easier to zone, but I feel like it wouldn't have looked right. So I tried to add in some variation wherever I could. Now I'm going to quickly clean up the terrain so we can develop everything. Alright, now with that done, let's finally get to zoning, and alongside this street, I just want some of the northeastern mixed use. And we're definitely going to use platter for this. And my strategy here is just to set the width to 4 cells and the depth to 3 cells. And then I want a bit of northeastern office alongside the front here. Unfortunately, we don't have any office demand. And that's just because we have unoccupied buildings. Let's swap it up then. We'll go with some northeastern high-density residential. And yeah, that's just really not gonna do. It's the same asset repeating over and over and over again. It's such a dramatic change, and it just feels like a brick wall. Okay, new plan. First, we need to delete all of this, and now I'm just gonna quickly go through and place all of these buildings alongside this block. And yeah, that's just so much better. If you're ever wondering why I add these lanes in the middle, it's just to break up the blocks a bit. In fact, we actually need one right here as well. And honestly, the best part is that it allows you to use these corner buildings without them feeling too weird. Might as well continue this alleyway. And now I think we have to split this block up one more time because it just seems a bit too big. Now we really only have medium density demand. It seems like our high density is slowly increasing, but I think focusing on our medium density for now should be a good plan. I'm going to use all of these buildings to fill all of this. I think this fits the appropriate scale and gives us a nice balance between different assets. Now I want to focus on this center right here for a second because we have a bit of office demand. And really all I want to see is something that's not too tall but fits in with the area as well. Alright, now let's do these 4 squares right here. We still have no commercials, so let's make this primarily residential and office. I always forget about these old town assets, but I feel like we could probably make a few of them work. The only thing I'm wondering is, can we get more of a red brick color on here? And no, we can't. That does not look good at all. Oh, that looks really bad. But we can definitely get something that feels a bit more red. Yeah, you know what? That's not too bad. And all of that is looking really good. What I want to do is step up our density one more time, so these 4 plots will be slightly higher than both of these. I left a bit of green space here because I really want to turn this into a park. I feel like we're gonna need it with all these towers. And we're pretty much skipping through a lot of history really quickly. Now I want one big building to be the focal point, and I've always really liked this Twain Tower building. So let's snap that directly to this block. And then we're just gonna move it over a tiny bit, make sure it has lots of room to breathe. It looks like we're getting a bit of commercial demand back, so let's definitely use that. And this is great too because it gives us a bunch of different densities that we can really work with. So I could see this section is getting slightly more modern. Let's make sure that this is a park as well. And I honestly think this business plaza would probably be a really good fit. Now before I figure out what else we need, let's pull over this district. And now we can see how many employees are in the area and how many residents. So we have about 2,500 adults and only about 2,100 jobs. And if we open up InfoLoom and we set the district to Barlow Acres, we can see that the unemployment is roughly 10%, and that's mainly concentrated within our uneducated. There's not really too much we can do here. This is kind of a business district, but something we can definitely do is add in fire coverage. So we'll have one of these urban fire stations, and let's have that front this road right here. And just like that, there goes all of our money. It does come with some upgrades, so we have the training tower, and we have the disaster response unit. A tornado is passing through. That couldn't have come at a better time. I think we're gonna have to throw on the disaster response unit. And for now, we're broke again. But where is this tornado? Oh no. Stay away. Stay away. And ooh, that's not looking good at all. We have a bunch of hearse icons here. And that's because our Netherlands cemetery is full. Okay, this is a pretty easy fix. This was actually something that I meant to do a long time ago. When the city was just starting out, we placed down the cemetery, but we never expanded it because we didn't have the money. And I think what we really need is this crematorium add-on, and we're almost there. These burial sites are fairly cheap though, so let's add on a few of these. And that gives us an extra capacity of roughly 1,000. All right, now we're ready to go. Let's place this directly in right here. All right, and now we're processing 321 bodies per month. I have a question. Is that coming from the buried deceased people? Or is that just happening from the new people that are dying? Because I have some serious concerns around this. Either way, I don't want to get too distracted and focus on a cemetery when we're supposed to be building this downtown, so let's hurry up and finish this off. We have this German police station that we're definitely going to have to get in, because I don't think this area had police either, which means we have very long coverage routes. I was thinking we could place the German one here, but then I totally forgot we have the Northeastern police station, which fits in with this entire area perfectly. Wait, where did that money come from? All of a sudden, I have enough to buy every police station. Something is going on here. I don't know where this money is coming from. The only thing I can think of is maybe it's the transportation fees that are jumping up, but it just gave us 600k in one foul swoop. I don't know. But like the last time, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, and I would love to get one of these bigger city police stations in. And to me, the ideal spot is right here. In terms of upgrades, we have the helipad, which we're definitely going to add on. Let's quickly make sure we set this to only operate in this district. And we're also going to do Walnut Town. Again, for the fire station, we're going to do these two districts right here. We have the high school right here. Let's set this to operate in this district only. Then there's really only one more thing we need, and that's an elementary school. We're definitely going to need one with a whole bunch of capacity. I'm thinking this Northeast Elementary School would probably be the best fit. Right off the bat, we're going to add on the extension floors, which will give us an extra 300 capacity. And now we're going to set this to only operate in Barlow Acres. And then we're still missing the landfill and the recycling center, so let's set them both to operate in this area as well. We're also missing mail, so let's get that in. And now we're also going to add mail to Walnut Town. I don't know how I forgot. For Walnut Town, let's throw down a Netherlands post office because they fit in so well. They're pretty much the perfect asset for this. And we're going to place this post office right by our elementary school. We'll set this to only operate in Walnut Town. And then once we have some money, we'll also place down another one in Barlow Acres. And now I just want to finish off all the zoning back here. This lot is going to be a bit more dense, but everything else around it is going to shrink. And what is going on with this road? This is one of the ugliest roads I've ever seen in my life. There we go. That's much better. And we still have commercial demands, so we're going to go with a bit of high density commercial in this lot. And with that, we are finally done zoning everything in. I really like the transition of density, and I think it comes across really clean. We're not going to add in any transit because we're going to tackle that one next time, along with a bit of expansion here and here. Now for detailing, there's so much to do. I'm really excited. Let's start with our hospital, and I've made a really big blunder here, but I am going to live with it because I don't want to redo it, and that's the parking. There's these massive gaps in between all the parking lots, and realistically, the hospital is going to be trying to squeeze as much parking in here as possible, and surface parking is just much cheaper. And aside from not fixing it, we're going to dirty this area up, make it feel a lot more lived in. And I was thinking we could probably add a retaining wall around the side. I know with this connection right here, I figured we'd just bridge over wherever we're going in the future. Next up, we have this area, and this is a really important area because it can either go two ways. It can look plain, boring, and kind of dead, which is exactly how it looks now, or it can be detailed with a lot of love and care to make it feel a bit more alive. And of course, we're gonna make it feel more alive. So I wanna add in a fountain here, some tables, some food stalls. On this side, I'm gonna do something very similar. We'll add in some surfaces, some pathways, and again, just make this feel so much more alive than it currently is. Next up, we have this park area. And I'm really excited because there's just so much that we can do here. And so the plan is to add in one of those parks that kind of dips down with the terrain. Then we'll have one massive surface that covers everything, a bunch of planters, a bunch of urban benches, and then I have something that I want to try out with a net lane to see if we can really make this pop. Aside from that, I'm going to add in a bunch of parking here, as much as I can fit in. We'll make this area feel a bit more dusty, but also at the same time a bit more intimate. Now let's jump into detailing. and I am really happy with how this area turned out. I was starting to worry for a bit there, but looking at this, it feels perfect. It's almost how I envisioned it in my head, which is a big win. Now, something I didn't mention is that I did detail the train yard, although I did that off camera. I kind of just kept it basic and simple. There's more plans to expand it down the line, and once we do that expansion, then we can have a real proper detailing session, and hopefully I won't forget to detail at that time. Now, we got a few things to do before we wrap up, and of course there's a forest fire, and it's right here. It really feels like I'm cursed with fires and tornadoes. Either way, we officially have Walnut Town's new name. Now it is Lithia Sands, and I think that means we're probably going to have to build a big old beach alongside here eventually. Now we also have the names for our other two districts, so Brightwater Crest is now Lithia Heights, and Birch Acres is now Linwood Acres. We still have one more name that we need for this new downtown area. As always, I would really appreciate if you can leave some suggestions in the comments below. Now, a few people have been asking for statistics, so once we're done with the before and after, I'll scroll through all of the relevant statistics and I'll keep them on screen so everyone can see. With all of that done though, let's jump into a quick before and after. And that's a wrap. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed. Huge thanks to all of our amazing Patreon and YouTube members. Today's shoutouts go to Jake Hill, Gary Key, Deku, and Freya Stark, and to everyone else supporting the channel in any way. Seriously, it's really appreciated. If you want sneak peeks or access to the save files, you can join us over on Patreon or YouTube. If you haven't already, a like, comment, and subscription really go a long way. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one.